Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Regan. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Precedent, and I want to thank you for joining us today to discuss the use of artificial intelligence to cultivate the ultimate trial lawyer. I am joined by Josh Rosen, who will tell us a little bit about himself in just a moment. First, a little housekeeping. We will have time at the end to address perhaps a few questions. There is a chat option on the screen. If you'd like to submit your questions, we can prioritize and get to those at the end of the session. We will also be recording this and providing it for future viewing. So again, thank you all for attending. And Josh, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Well, first of all, thank you also to everybody who joined. I am extremely excited for this webinar and even more so for the entire series of webinars that we intend to provide at scale. It's an opportunity for someone like myself, a former personal injury lawyer, to have much more intimate and practical conversations about artificial intelligence and how it affects the personal injury law practice. So just a little bit of my background. I was born and raised and still live right outside of Philadelphia. And the only time I left the Philadelphia area was for my 4 years of undergrad at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, followed by an additional year in Wisconsin where I dipped my toes into the political world, working for a U.S. senator there. And then I made my way back to the Philadelphia area to attend Rutgers Camden Law School. And while attending law school, I joined as a student intern at the firm where I spent my entire career as a lawyer. When I joined the firm, I was the second person at the firm right after the CEO started it. And when I left the firm just about a year ago now, there were almost 200 people at that firm. It was a large volume personal injury, mostly auto and fall down accidents. And I was the chief operating officer of the firm after spending the first few years there litigating in the trenches. So I've had tons of experience both litigating at trial as well as running the processes of a law firm. And as I said, I left that law firm about a year ago. And while I am not directly practicing as a trial lawyer, I have remained in the trial lawyer world. And I'm excited to be moving into the tech and artificial intelligence aspect of the personal injury world.
Thanks, Josh. That is an interesting career pivot. And so, what drew you to dedicate more time and energy to technology versus litigation and the practice of law?
Yes, it was a huge pivot and it was a fast one, which I think is a bit of a microcosm of the way that artificial intelligence works so far from my experience in this world. It can move very, very quickly. It can change uh, uh, almost immediately overnight, and it's very exciting. But when I left my law firm and left the actual practice, actual litigation, I did so on the heels of spending the preceding decade really in a process and operational role for a large volume personal injury firm. And I learned a lot over those 10 years about really how to operate a law firm like a business. And before the very quick and exponential growth of artificial intelligence uh, and the way that artificial intelligence found its way into the personal injury world, I was really managing those operations in a very antiquated way. Use of maybe Excel spreadsheets and manipulating our case management software the best that I could in order to streamline uh, most of our practice. And that included all the way intake through pre-litigation, litigation, and past settlement. And learning about all of those processes and how to really make the firm run more efficiently, I found myself wondering wow, if this could be automated in a certain way, if this process can be made more efficient, if we could really sort of uncrowd those bottlenecks in terms of the process in a much more streamlined way without uh, too many having to throw many too many people at that problem without having to spend too much money on that problem, it would be a game changer. And that's when I really started to talk to my contemporaries about the use of artificial intelligence. And what really excites me about the tech world, and particularly AI, is really its ability to multiply that impact. The word that I used so much in my career as a lawyer was scalability. And AI really provides a ton of assistance for scalability of law firms. All of the services and tools that are being developed today by AI companies, including the company precedent that I'm with now, um, really fundamentally reshape how trial lawyers practice. And it's not by replacing the lawyers or the paralegals. It's really about eliminating friction and freeing up your time. It allows us to focus on the strategic and human aspects of the work. So, all in all, I didn't leave uh, the personal injury practice because I lost any sort of passion for it. In fact, quite the opposite. I really saw a bigger opportunity to modernize and elevate my profession on a much larger scale. Um, I've always been a huge advocate, a victim advocate in what I did, and you know, I saw this opportunity where access to justice and operational efficiency can be so intertwined that I wanted to make that difference on a large scale. I wanted to bring that operational efficiency through technology to the type of profession that seeks access to justice. So I'm joining a company that's building these tools, they're building the tools that I had dreamed about for the past 15 years. Is really about a commitment to scaling the personal injury trial lawyer practice and a commitment to the future of the profession.
So Josh, you talk about, how AI and technology can help firms scale with, the same level of sort of human capital, which is, an outstanding benefit. What are the challenges, though, that firms might face as, this sort of AI and technology landscape is changing so rapidly?
Yeah, so there's certainly going to be challenges and I guess growing pains in any sort of changes. And what I always sort of say and uh, uh, joke about somewhat is that my and this is myself included that injury lawyers, trial lawyers tend to be the most tech averse group of people, the most tech averse industry, and a lot of what I have seen there is sort of opposition to replacing human work with artificial intelligence, um, at least in the local scale of that. And then that's why I talk about scalability so much. So first and foremost, I do think that there's a mindset barrier. Um, Most lawyers that came from the world that I came from really are trained to and do value their own control and their own precision masterminding of their own cases. And those are good qualities, and they're qualities that can make them really resistant to change. So introducing AI into that environment can really trigger fears around the quality of the work on the cases, ethical compliance, and really job security for those non-partners, associates, and paralegals. But the truth of the matter is that firms may be missing an opportunity if they don't get involved in intertwining technology and their operational processes. Um, at this point, it is very clear that those firms that resist for too long are going to fall behind, and those that engage in technology changes in the use of AI are going to be the ones that really increase efficiency and, more importantly, I think, client satisfaction. Um, another sort of barrier that we run into, and I alluded to it a little bit, is ethical concerns, and that is certainly a concern for any lawyer. this idea of data security adds to the intention to maintain a fully ethically compliant practice. And I know that all of my colleagues on the trial bar, the number one thing in their mind is to make sure that they are operating in the best interest of their clients. And that covers the ethics rules, the rules of professional conduct. And now we're adding this issue of data security. So as firms start to use artificial intelligence to process confidential information about their clients, maybe where there's HIPAA concerns, and there's attorney-client confidentiality concerns. They have to ensure that the companies they bring on, the partners they use to help them use technology and artificial intelligence, do meet those highest standards of encryption and compliance, and maybe some of these things that us personal injury lawyers aren't all that familiar with. So therein lies a little bit of a concern for a lot of the firms that are just beginning to use more technology. But I know from the experience I've had here at Precedent and talking to others in the artificial intelligence and technology world, that is of our main concern as well. We understand, and especially I, as a former trial lawyer, understand the importance of following those ethics rules, and making sure that everything is confidential when it should be, and there's no data security issues. Um, there's Along the same lines, right now there is a lacking of regulation of artificial intelligence technology in the lawyer world, right? We talk about ethical rules, and we're very familiar with what the disciplinary boards of various states require of lawyers in terms of their relationship with their clients. And what we anticipate, or what I anticipate, is that as the use of AI and technology becomes more prevalent, those regulatory factors are going to change. Things are going to move, and they're going to become a little bit different. And that's something that we certainly have to pay attention to. And I also, the last kind of, I don't want to call this a barrier, but the last sort of thing that can make things a little bit more complicated that I hope to flush out over the next many months through these webinars is the worry about what I've seen. Maybe there's a lot of oversaturation in the market for AI and technology in the PI world, especially when you think about trial lawyers like myself, who, despite me being of the next generation of trial lawyers, is not particularly savvy in artificial intelligence and technology. So we're learning on the go, and there are a lot of different companies that are involved in the legal tech market, and so that market's really exploding with different tools. Now, some of those tools are incredibly valuable. Some are what I would call half baked or overhyped. So being able to really dive into the products, understand what you're committing to when you work with these companies is essential. And that's really the foundation of, again, what this webinar is. As a former trial lawyer myself, I hope to, in the next number of months, help prepare my colleagues, my former colleagues, to jump into this world where we might not have a ton of familiarity with it.
So thanks, Josh. It sounds like um, very strong advice to, as your colleagues evaluate the technology landscape, AI included, that they go in with their eyes open, understanding that there are requirements when it comes to um, you know uh, data security and compliance. But also making sure that the technology partners that are chosen are really aligned to the firm's best interest, and that are adding value both from the scalability standpoint, but also just modernizing the operations. Just you mentioned the webinar series, so why don't we talk a little bit about that? It's going to be a multi-part, and what do you want attorneys and attendees of these sessions to take away?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to touch on the last thing that you said there, Brian, I absolutely think that those questions about data security and all the specifics involved in the technology that you bring on, asking those questions are crucial. And again, that's really the foundation of this webinar series. What I want to be able to do is present the trial bar with a crash course, if you will, on what the transition into more use of this AI and technology can look like. And like we were just talking about, allude to some of the warnings involved in that. We, as the quote unquote consumers of this AI and technology, that from companies like the one that Brian and I are in precedent right now, we need to the lawyers need to ask questions of us. Those using our services need to fully understand not only the benefits that they are going to get from the use of those kind of services from the technology and the AI, but they also need to you also need to understand how it really works, how it affects your process. Are you losing anything of value in terms of client communication and your responsibilities to your client? And if so, how are you making up for that? Or how are you protecting those important responsibilities so that you can continue to have real open communication with your clients as we are required to, as we're obligated to? Um, so what I see for the webinar series is really running through the entire chronology of a case, if you will, from intake, where we have our new clients coming in the door, how we onboard them into our systems, and how AI and technology can handle that, all the way through pre-litigation, whether it's determining the significance of our clients' injuries, whether it's just retrieving medical records, whether it's analyzing the cases, through initiating and to the end of litigation, trials themselves, and that could include you know, depositions, trial depositions, mediations, arbitrations, and how the different services that AI and technology companies can provide, how those things can make preparation and the quality of uh, the lawyering in those situations even more efficient, and can really buy your time back. And what I mean by that is, in each of those areas of a case, if you're going to be able to get through certain things faster, if you're going to be able to summarize uh, 5,000 pages of documents in the snap of a finger and just read that summary and be able to identify places in the records where those certain issues are, where those certain phrases are, well, that's going to save you a heck of a lot of time. And now you can put that extra time that you've bought yourself into preparing your client, into things that need human interaction. So much of what we do can be automated and doesn't need human interaction to have the same or even higher quality of it. So, what I'd like to see happen over the next number of months through this webinar series is to touch on what is possible at each aspect of a case, what the choke points are for personal injury lawyers at each part of the case as they run through it all the way to trial. And in fact, even post trial or post settlement to the distribution of the settlement funds. There are so many parts of that process that are time consuming and can be automated, and we can use technology to really make that entire process more expeditious. So I'd like to set the foundation for that. But also, I also think that the most important part of that is what we were talking about a minute ago. And that was looking at all of those aspects of a case, seeing where technology can be used, and ensuring that that technology does not only, in fact, help expedite and improve the quality of the lawyering at each of those processes, at each of the parts of those processes, but that it also doesn't force us as lawyers to lose the important qualities and values that makes us good at what we do, and that is our own evaluation, our own analysis, our own preparation of a case, and our own communication with our clients, which I have found to be client communication. That is, I have found to be the most important aspect of the of being a trial lawyer. And not only do I believe that the technology and the artificial intelligence we can use can assist us in doing better at that, but can really buy us much more time to do all of those important things. So I'd really like to set that out again from beginning to end of a case. what technology can be used, how it can be used, and how to ensure that it really provides the best assistance to make all of us reach the highest potential of our lawyering.
Josh, I mean, certainly your own experience in the PI world, very applicable. And you mentioned, being able to really break down the, from intake through pre-litigation to trial and to settlement. Um, i- is there any benefit to, or is there generally applicable materials for any practicing attorney in this webinar series?
Yeah, I would think so. My Obviously my experience is that in the personal injury, the plaintiff's world, um, and I think about my practice, the practice that I operated for, you know, a decade and a half, and I really saw so much opportunity for different automating services and how to bring in AI. I mean, for those who really have little or no experience in artificial intelligence, but most of us still use something like ChatGPT, for example. I mean, you can uh, really take advantage of the speed and quality that ChatGPT can provide in answering questions. Well, that is really just the tiniest, smallest, least complex example of problems that can be solved or choke points that can be opened up with the help of different AI services. And so, yes, while I really my experience is in the personal injury world, and I saw places where we could really make those processes more efficient in my practice, it certainly translates to any legal practice. Again, we as lawyers, whether it's personal injury lawyer or any other kind of lawyer, are bound by those ethical rules, those rules of professional conduct. And those rules are going to be the same across the board, no matter what kind of lawyer you are. So we have the same concerns in terms of using these things. Do they follow those ethical rules? Does it allow me to continue to maintain the quality of my lawyering myself? And any of these things, whether it's from summarizing records, whether it's in terms of communication with, in my world, insurance companies, but whether it's research into corporate structure, there's just an infinite amount of concepts, an infinite amount of tasks that human lawyers take on that are incredibly time consuming, that can be done at the same or higher quality in a much quicker way. So if you took any sort of legal practice, just in terms of summarizing records or summarizing and analyzing case law or any other legal precedent. These are things that can be the process to do so can be changed and made so much more efficient, no matter what kind of lawyer you are. And so, what you'll see from me is certainly that I strongly urge any lawyers to really jump into the use of technology, um, because if you don't, you're certainly going to fall behind the thousands and thousands of lawyers that have already begun to use it and make their firms better. But to also think outside the box and think to yourself, well, if this kind of technology can exist and it can help me summarize 1,000 pages worth of records, well, then it must be able to do something in these other tasks. And if you can think about outside the box in your own practice, I promise that there are companies out there that are willing to help you bring those outside the box ideas into reality. So that's real. That is really a big part of this, is us as lawyers using our brains, which are trained in logic and thinking outside the box, and understanding that technology and artificial intelligence can bring those ideas to life.
No, that's sound advice, Josh. And so my understanding is that this webinar series is going to be accredited, so that people attending can satisfy some of their CLE, requirements for the year.
Yes. So I'm in the process right now of having all of our materials accredited. So by the first actual webinar that has real content, maybe towards the end of August, I believe, that there will be accredited, and will be all the lawyers that attend will be able to get CLE credits for it. And the thing that makes me the most confident about that, and the most excited, is that even recently, the American Bar Association has issued some statements about the importance of and urging lawyers to start using more technology and artificial intelligence in their practices. So I think not only is it great to get CLE credits, but it's certainly a topic that is important to the legal practice. And even the ABA would agree with me on that.
Fantastic. Well, we will be publishing that next date, as you mentioned, towards the end of August of 2025. Those of you who registered for this webinar will get an automatic update when that is scheduled, and we are looking forward, Josh, to you really kicking off the in-depth exploration of how to cultivate that ultimate trial lawyer with artificial intelligence. Josh, thank you so much for joining today and providing an introduction and backdrop to this exciting upcoming webinar series. Thank you all for attending, and we look forward to speaking with you shortly. Take care.
Thank you.